What's up, everyone? Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Chris. So I'm going to do something a little different. Excuse me. Last month's video, I struggled with my book. What I've been reading. Because I read 6 books and 1 DNF'd book. And by the time I went to do my, talk about the books, I started to lose a lot of information, and I felt very discombobulated trying to talk about these books. So I thought, how could I avoid that? Because, as I've said before, this brain here only holds so much, and then it has to throw away unimportant stuff to remember important things anymore. Comes with age, right? I have other theories on it, but we won't discuss that here. Let's keep the topic on the books. Anyway, so I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to review my books after I read them. And then when it comes time to upload my monthly video on what I've been reading, I will edit the whole video to include every book that I've read for the month. So going forward in this video, I hope so, you will probably see me in different clothes. Hair might be a mess. Well, it ain't looking too good right now either. Could be a different color. Who knows, right? Just to let you know. That's how I'm going to do this. So, that being said, let's go ahead and start talking about what I have started reading. Actually, this is going to include 2 books in this attire. Anyway, the reason there's 2 books is because I read each book in 1 day apiece, and because they were fairly shorter books. The first book I'm going to talk about is I'm Thinking about Ending Things by Ian Reid. It was good. Was it 5-star good? No. It was different. It was very mysterious, and it kept me wanting to continue. And I wanted to find out, where is this going? Because it was very unusual. So basically, Jake and his girlfriend are driving out to his parents' farm, which is kind of secluded. And along the way, on their drive, they're talking. She's doing a lot of mental talking to herself, because just random thoughts in her head. Strange things happen along the drive, kind of like little things like, what was that about? How's this going to play in? And, they get to the farm. Parents are very odd. Everything's very unusual. There's so many unusual things in this book, and you're like, what is going on? Ultimately, though, by the end of the book, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, because it was so different and unusual. There was some tension. I can't say there's tension. It was just more or less suspense. Very suspenseful book. Yeah, would I recommend it? If you're looking for something quick and fast to read, yeah, I'd recommend the book. It was very quick, very fast. Just very character-driven book. There really wasn't a plot per se. It was character driven and just very unusual. And by the end of the book, I was like, what? I had to actually sit back and think about the ending, because at first I was a little confused until I thought it through. But so yeah, I'm Thinking About Ending Things by Ian Reid. I'm going to give it I'm going to go 3.5 stars on this book. It was good. Good book, page turner, kept me interested, and Yeah. So take a look at it if that sounds like something you might be interested in. Then the next book I listened to. Oh, and speaking of, I'm thinking about ending things. Very good in Audible. So try the Audible version of it. I'm not sure it would pull the same if it was read, if that makes any sense. So if you're into audio, I would suggest audiobook over a physical book on this one, because I don't know how that would come off in print. Okay, the next book is Tender as the Flesh by, oh my God, see this, I literally just finished the book a half hour ago. Angelica, oh my God, I'll put it on the screen. Well, it's on the book, but I can't believe I forgot her name. That's really bad. Anyway, this book was a little disturbing. But not so much so that I was appalled by it in any way. I found the book to be really, it was good. It was different. It was different. Basically, this is more dystopian. And basically, the book is, okay, back up. The main character in the story is told by Marcos. And he works in a plant that processes special meat. Now, the reason this is special meat is because the meat is humans. Yes, humans. Basically, what happened was all the animals were getting ill with this virus, this toxic virus that was being passed on to people. So they had to kill all the animals. All the animals. Dogs, cats, chickens, cows, pigs, any type of animal on the planet, because they were toxic to humans. And they began raising and farming humans. They don't call them humans, they call them heads in the book. And they also didn't call it human meat, it's called special meat. Now, Marcos seems to be he's disturbed by this, but he has to make a living. And as he talks through the book and tells the story of how people are viewing this type of meat is a little unnerving. It's all government run, like, and checked, and and they're raised, they're farmed. So these heads are not like people like you and I, where we talk and whatever. They're animals. They're bred and raised like animals, and they're also slaughtered like animals are slaughtered. It was interesting because things that I was thinking of while I was listening to this book was kind of like, could something like this happen? I suppose. I don't think it would be in the near future, but it could. And it was very, very, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Soylent Green. So this isn't really like a new concept in writing at all, or, because Soylent Green was kind of the same thing. It was a company. However, these people didn't know they were eating people, but that was what Soylent Green was. If you haven't seen the movie, it was back in the 70s. Now, so in this book, They slaughter the humans, raise them the same. But there are people who, you know, experiment. There's different levels of the grade of food, of meat, special meat. Um, like if there's fear when they're killed, that would destroy the meat. And there's also black market meat that could be bought, which is actually like people who are had a first and a last name, is how they said it. So, and I also got me thinking about, and I'd like to know about the author in this sense is, we have a community of, individuals who choose to be vegan. I got no problem with it, so let's not no politics here, okay? This is nothing to do. I don't care if people eat meat or don't eat meat. I'm just putting that out there. You could be vegan, that's fine. I did it for a year and a half. So for, just whatever, but so that's not what I'm trying to turn this into. But in my mind, I'm thinking, was this looked upon like, or written in the sense that to give you a sense of what animals go through when they're slaughtered? If you read this, because it's being told to you through Marcos, so he touches on things like that, like, what the head looks like when, and I say head, I'm talking about the human looks like as they club it on the head and slice it open, and the entrails, and yeah, it's a little graphic, but not horribly so. Just the disconnect of feeling between the human that was raised and farmed for meat to the person who's going to consume it. So, again, good book. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because it was a little different from what I normally read. And yeah, I thought it was a good book. I thought it was like I said, not completely new in theory. I mean, like I said, there's the movie Soylent Green, which kind of touches on which also touches on the subject of eating humans. So yeah, Tender is the Flesh. Yeah, that's her name. I can't believe I've forgotten her name already. That I want to say it's, yeah, I'm not going to try because, I'm filming right now. So even though you're seeing it on the screen, I'm not. Anyway, check it out. It was an interesting book. If you want to give yourself, some food for thought, no pun intended. But yeah, it was just something to think about. It gave you some, pause to think about things. And yeah, so I enjoyed it. So that's my review of the two books. So let's carry on to my next read. Okay, so for my next read, it is another book that I chose to pick up by Kate Quinn, and that is The Diamond Eye. This book was fantastic. So it is about, and the character in the story is a real person, Ludmila Pavlichenko. It is World War II, and it's Russia. The book is fictional. The author pulled a lot of the information from Ludmila's own memoirs, and that book is available, and it is called Lady Death, The Memoirs of Stalin's Sniper. Now, she is a Russian war hero. She was a sharpshooter in the Russian Red Army, and she killed 309 I'm sorry, I just got a call coming in. It just kind of distracted me. She killed 309 German soldiers. And the book was fantastic. Like I said, it's it's a fictional book. However, she did go to Washington, and that is talked about in the book. And she became very good friends with Eleanor Roosevelt, and that part is true. So that is written into the story as well. Um, it was such a good book. I love the character, the way she was written. I'm going to put some pictures of her because it did come with a PDF file along with the audiobook. Yeah, it was fascinating to me. It was in between a slow burn and a medium pace book. A lot of the story centers around her in the trenches and the battles that were fought. Um, and her name, she's synonymous with the name of Lady Death. She became known for that throughout the Russian army and the German army, which I thought was really cool. And back in the day, Russia, women were allowed to enlist and serve in the army. I'm sure they still are today. I learned a lot about Russian ways that I would have never thought women could have been in a position such as this. But she enlisted into the army. She was already a sharpshooter. The way she became a sharpshooter was she had just, well, I don't know if how much of this was true or fictional from the story. She did it for her son. Um, because that's part of the story as well. It takes place back before the war. She had gotten pregnant by a man much older than her and married her. He treated her like shit. And she wanted to always protect her son. And she took classes and went to school to be a sharpshooter. And not only that, she was a scholar. She loved learning. She loved history. And she was a student when the war broke out, and she went and enlisted, and she went in as a sharpshooter on the, I don't know if it's the front lines. It's really not the front line. You're kind of behind the scenes. You know, everything they did took place in the middle of the night, you know, under the cover of brush and whatnot. Yeah, great story. I mean, it was really good. So it was a bit of a slow burn, but it was medium paced at points as well. And then toward the end, the pace picked up. There was more tension toward the end of the book. Loved the way the book turned at the end. So in real life, back in the day, she did do a tour. I think it was a Russian goodwill tour. So she was picked to be one of the Russian delegates to go on a tour of in the United States in Washington. She met Theodore Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt. And like I said, they became fast friends, which that is true. And a story develops there, a fictional story develops there. So that's where it really got interesting. And she has spoken. It was like a tour of the United States. So she had spoken in Chicago, and she was out in California for a while and spoke out there to people, basically to try to bring America, you know, goodwill to America and help them. Yeah, this was a great read. I am really enjoying Kate Quinn's books. This is the second book I've read by her. I like her style of writing. She just has a way of really drawing you into the story and educating you at the same time, and you don't realize you're learning stuff. And I'm a fan of her, and I got quite a few books on my list to purchase in the future from her, written by her. It seems that she writes mostly a lot of historical novels. which I enjoy. In this novel here, it had some romance in it, written into it. It was just a really, really good story, you guys, and I highly recommend this book. I'm giving it 5 stars. It was phenomenal. Yeah, I'm still thinking about it, and yeah, it was good. It was good. So check that one out. The book was written in March of 22. And like I said, she really did write her memoirs down, and that was Lady Death, the Memoirs of Stalin's Sniper. Um, I'm trying to think. This book is probably, I think it said it was like 448 pages, so it's not an overly long book. It's average length book. So yeah, check it out. If you're into historical fiction, little romance blended in there too, and it was good. Really, really good book. I enjoyed it a lot. All right, so let's go on to my next book. All right, so the next book I want to talk about is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. All right, this book was published in 2011. It's a story about an English teacher. He's recently divorced, Jake Epping. And he gets contacted by an owner of a diner there in town and points him. He notices something really weird about the owner. He looks like all of a sudden, like overnight, he's aged and he's lost a ton of weight and now he's sick, and all these crazy things are going on. Well, the owner shows him like a time portal in the pantry of the diner, and he's urging Jake to go back in time and stop the assassination of President Kennedy. Well, when he goes through this time portal, it's always the same date, same exact time, same year, every time you go through. And it's only 2 minutes. He could stay there for 5 years and come back home, and only 2 minutes has passed. So that's what this man had done, but then he got sick and he couldn't, he had lung cancer, so he reached out to Jake to urge and plead with him to go save President Kennedy. So he does, and so many things happen in this book. It's the back and forth, other things that he wants to change, and things that happen along the way. He, the people he encounters, and just the whole thought process of doing something like this, and what may happen in that ripple of time when, going and changing things in the past. The butterfly effect is how he talks about it. The writing, it was phenomenal. It's just such a good book. I love the characters in this book. There was Harry. He's in the beginning of the story, and he actually goes back when Jake goes into time, back in time, he changes something for Harry, and just all these things and all these people. I say this every time I talk about Stephen King. He has a way of making you really care for many or one or more of the characters that he writes. And it's phenomenal. It is long. If you don't like long books, I think it was 30 hours in audio time. But not only is it long in the sense, it's going to take a long time to read it or listen to it, there's a lot of story. So some people may feel like it could have been a shorter book, but one of the things with the book is all the story just builds those characters and changes them and transforms them and gives you that sense of place and atmosphere with all the words. So it's a slow burn, but yet there's a lot of, the pace is nice because the pace could be just a nice slower pace, and then it picks up and it slows back down, and then something else happens and it starts to pick up again, and it just keeps you going and it keeps you wanting to turn the page or listen longer. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know that The Stand, as of to date, is my favorite Stephen King book. Well, you know what? I forgot about The Green Mile. That was good too. Yeah, so I don't know. This one is really kind of pushed its way up there. I haven't really sat back to reflect on, just like I said, I forgot about The Green Mile. I haven't sat back to reflect on how I feel about this book compared to The Stand and The Green Mile. So maybe one day I'll, do that. It's going to be my intent. I'm going to try to read one Stephen King book a month because he has become one of my favorite writers. Him along with Kristen Hannah, Quinn. So I want to try to read one of his books every month because he's got so many. And I don't know if I'm going to read all of them because some of them, they just don't appeal to me at all. So I don't know, like the short stories, and I know he does do great short stories. I do have Some Like It Darker. I haven't finished it yet. I'm about halfway through it, and I started that last year. So I guess I just need to be in that right frame of mind to want to listen to a series of short stories. And I know a lot of his short stories tie in to novels, as well as some of the short stories also pick up from where a novel left off. So I don't know. That's all up in the air. But as far as this 11/22/63, it was a great book. Great book. I would recommend this book to everybody. I'm going to give it 5 stars, easily 5 stars. I'm still thinking about it. Yeah, it was funny. It was heartfelt in many ways. It was exciting. It was, yeah, good book. Good book. So if you get the chance and you got the time, highly recommend 11/22/63. It was phenomenal. And if you do it on audio, I thought the voice actor was fantastic. Just fantastic. He switched characters very well, and it was good on audio. So yeah, that's my 5-star read. I don't know, did I do another 5-star? I can't remember. I don't think it, yes, it did. Anyway, so yeah, check that one out. I'm really excited. So I'm not sure what my next one's going to be. I wanted to read it, and in fact, part of the book takes place in Derry, and there's reference to things that the clown from It. So I was hoping as I was listening to it, that it didn't give too much away because I do want to read that one. I don't think I'm going to do a big one again next month. I'm thinking maybe The Shining might be my next Stephen King. We'll see. Anyway, so let's go on to my next read. All right, so let's talk about the next book. Next book is A Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. I really enjoyed this book. It was tense. It was mysterious. There was lots of twists, things that I didn't expect. There was one part of the story that I didn't figure it out, but I noticed right away. I thought, I mean, I can't say what it is, but it was it wasn't mentioned in the story yet, but I knew it had to come out because I'm like, this has to come out because it's so blatantly obvious. But that being said, I found the book was well written, and like I said, it was a page turner. It just kept me going. It kept me interested. Basically, the story's about Grady, and he's a writer, and his wife is Abby. And right in the beginning of the story, Abby goes missing. He's on the phone with her, and she's in her car. He's home waiting for her to arrive home to find out if his book made the New York Times bestseller list. And while he's on the phone with her, she slams on the brakes and hears a screeching sound. And he's like, "What happened?" He thought, she was in an accident. She said, "There's a woman laying in the road." He asks her don't get out of the car. She said, "Well, I have to see if she's okay," and, whatever. And he's like, "Well, let me stay on the phone with you." So he's on the phone with her, and he hears her walking towards the woman laying in the road. And then there's nothing. So from that point on in the story, he has no idea what happened to his wife or where she may be. So he's tormented by this, and he's lost his inability to write. His editor sends him to an island in Scotland. There she owns a cabin and says, "Hey, we need the second book. Here's a key to my cabin. Go there, get some peace and quiet, and try to get this book finished." So he goes to the island, and after this, there's not much I want to divulge because this is where the story really picks up. He meets many of the people who live on the island. There are things that are very odd about it. The people themselves have little quirks, and they're strange, and just strange things start happening around him. And yeah, so that's just the surface of the story. I really enjoyed this story. The ending did get a little confusing. I had to really stop and think about, wait a minute, what is happening here? And so I was able to, slow my thought process down and figure it out. And you have to apologize, but I have to apologize. I've been struggling with something maybe coming on. I don't know if it's a cold or a chest cold of some sort, but I got a bit of a cough. Anyway, it's a good book. I enjoyed it. I definitely have added other stories by Alice Feeney to my wish list to purchase in the future. I think that she's probably a writer that I would thoroughly enjoy. It was a good mystery, and I love the twists and turns that it took. It was, kept my interest. It was a page turner for me, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters, the kookiness of it, and so if you're interested in mysteries and just that tense mystery, like what's going on, I would highly recommend Alice Feeney's Beautiful Ugly. So for this book, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to give it 4 stars. I was going to do 3.5, but because of the twists in the book, I said, no, I'm going to go ahead and give this one 4 stars. So to me, it was above average for what I like to read. So anyway, Alice Feeney, Beautiful Ugly. Check it out. It's a fairly new release. It just released in January of 2025. And so that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the next book that I read. So moving on to the last book that I read as well. I do have a DNF. I don't know if I've mentioned that along the way, but I did DNF one book. I'm so glad I've gotten comfortable with being able to allow myself to just not finish a book if I'm not enjoying it. So I do have one. But before we talk about that, let's talk about this last book I read. Last book I read was Night Road by Kristen Hannah. Now, I've grown quite fond of Kristen Hannah's writing, so I do have quite a few that I threw into my wish list for ones that I would like to read. Now, this one here, I have mixed feelings about. Um, the first half, or maybe even a little more, of the book it was just not for me. But then the latter part of the book, the way it turned, I ended up really enjoying it. So let me start with what this book's about. You'll have to excuse me. I am getting over being sick, so I got a lot of bit of a cough. I'm going to try not to cough during the remainder of this video. Okay, so basically there are 3 young adults, Mia and Zach. They are twins, and Lexi. So Mia is a bit of she's shy, doesn't have a lot of friends, struggles in school because, she's socially awkward. Zach, her brother, is popular and, so he takes care of his sister. Then we got Lexi. Lexi comes into the story as she was a foster child all her life. Her mother was a drug addict, and she settles into the town where they live in Seattle. I believe it's like on an island in Seattle. And, well, not Seattle, Washington, because Seattle's a city. Anyway, it's up there in the northwest. So she finally settles into a home of her aunt. Her aunt didn't know that, she was bouncing around from foster family and all that. So her aunt took her in and to finish raising her. I believe that starts out, I want to say all the kids are 14 years old. Well, that was the point, not the point at which the point that I started to not enjoy the story was when the first half of the book was all about these teenagers. What they're doing, what they're talking about. And I don't like young adult stuff. I'm a 56-year-old woman. I don't want to read about kids. I just don't. They bore me. I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. I'm done. So I was a little disappointed because I'm like, I don't really care about the struggles and the trials of, teenager stuff. It's so, to me, it's just juvenile and stupid. And so I was a little disappointed. But that being said, I did stick with it because thankfully Kristen has a way of, she's a good writer. So she has a way of making a story engaging, even though I didn't really care for these 3 teenagers and they're just silliness. But that being said, they become fast friends. I didn't like the character of Mia. She was just so mousy and, couldn't do anything by herself. I need you to hold my hand. I didn't like her character at all. I didn't care for Lexi either. The way she was written was, because, usually foster home, you expect the character to be, troubled and whatnot. Well, she wasn't. She was just so good and perfect in every way. And, such a good girl, so nice, so kind. She just didn't, you know what? I think it was just the fact that they're kids. I just wasn't vibing with it because I can't. I'm not going to have that capability of forming a connection with these characters that are not even remotely close to my age or in the same aspect of life. Okay, so there's where my struggle was. Then we have Jude, the mom. She's like a helicopter mom, always worrying and, taking care of the kids and all this and that. And anyway, these three are like inseparable, these kids. And Lex and Zach end up becoming boyfriend, girlfriend, but got to worry about hurting Mia. And this went on for good half of the book. Tragedy strikes, okay? And that's where the book starts to change. That's where the character of the mom starts to come in, and you see what tragedy does to family, friendships, relationships, and how to get through it and grow. And that's where the story actually, for me, got better. So all in all, it was a good book. I'm going to give this book 3.5 stars. So for me, that's a good book. It wasn't outstanding. The writing was exceptional, as always. It wasn't my kind of story. So going forward, I'm going to be a little bit more particular when choosing which book I want to read next by Kristen Hannah. Her writing saved the book for me. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I am going to be a little more careful. Now, if you're not familiar with Kristen Hannah, she also wrote Firefly Lane, which was a series on Netflix. I didn't know she wrote it. I absolutely loved that series. However, in a book, I don't know if I would like it in book form. I'm not sure. Yeah. But because I saw the series, I have no desire to read the book because I kind of know what happens. But anyway, so yeah, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. It was good. It was a good story. If you like that type of story, coming of age, a little bit of romance, heartfelt, emotional, very emotional. Yeah. But for me, it's 3.5 stars. Okay, let's talk about the book I DNF'd. Now, I know I had said before when I went over my reading journal, one of my goals was to step outside my box a little bit and take on some other genres that I don't generally like. Because I thought, you know what, let me give it a try. Let me see. There's nothing wrong with trying to expand, your reading library, which you like to consume. So, I said I was going to do a dark romance. Well, here's the book. Does It Hurt by, was it H.D. Carlton? Does it hurt? Yeah, it hurt. It did. It hurt my ears. I couldn't do this book. Here's my problem. This is why I have an issue with these type of books. And I read a good, I'm trying to think, it was a good 3.5 hours, 4 hours I listened to this book. And the whole time, I was just like, what's going on here? I'm trying to see how I could even say this without being, like, vulgar. I couldn't, even at 3.5, 4 hours, I didn't know what the story was yet. I didn't know what the story was. All I knew was it was this girl, this guy she hooked up with, and all they were doing was, that. I want to swear, I want to be vulgar. Because that's how it was. It was vulgar. I'm like, all they were doing was having sex. Then we get to a little bit of a story, and they're back at it. And then they're back at it. And I'm like, I can't. I can't. I can't do it. It's not for me. I don't want to try anymore. Yeah. If you like that sort of thing, I hear this author is fantastic. I wouldn't know if she's a good writer or not, because I could write the smut that she was writing. I mean, we could all do that. We have imaginations. I'm not a prude. I want a good story. Maybe the story comes, maybe I had to listen to it for a few more hours. If you were to cut out all the sex scenes, there'd be no book. The book would probably be 50 pages. Not getting much of a story out of that. I don't need this blow by blow, detail by detail. And you want to put sex into a book? Fine. But do we have to sit there and go on and on about this and that? And really? Really? So I was annoyed. I was pissed that I even tried. I said, you know what? I'm done. I was telling Stephanie about it, and she said, oh, I picked the wrong one. So she gave me a suggestion of another book to read. It's on my list. Maybe way down in the future I'll try it. And we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I'm not a prude, but to me, if you're a talented writer, I don't know why we have to have page after page after page of detailed sex scenes. Blow by blow. No pun intended. Yeah. So that annoyed me. Can you tell? Anyway, overall, February was a good month. I had some really good reads there. My favorite being the Stephen King 11/22/63. That's going to be my monthly fave for February. It was a 5-star read for me. I'm trying to think. I had another 5-star too. Diamond Eye. That was another 5-star. Granted, it was hard to choose a favorite, for the month. But, because I liked, my two 5-star reads. I believe it was just 2 I had, right? I think so. I think it was the Stephen King and the Kate Quinn book. I liked them both for different reasons, and it was hard to choose. Which one did I like better? That was a tough call. But ultimately, I settled on the Stephen King book, and yeah. So that's that. That was my month-end wrap-up for February and what I've read. I think it was a good month. I've got some good ones chosen for myself for March, and I'm excited to start reading those, and I hope I have as good a month next month as I did, or I hope I have as good a month in March as I did for February. Anyway, so let me know. Have you read any of the books that I have mentioned? What are you currently reading? What was your favorite read this month, if you've read anything at all? Favorite authors? Who's your favorite authors? Yeah. If you got any recommendations, I'll add them to the ever-growing wish list that I have. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the time you take out of your day, your lives, your busy schedule, and you watch a video I've uploaded. It means a lot to me. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Helps my channel grow. And I want you to have a great day, great week, great night, weekend, whenever you happen to be watching. And we'll chat again real soon. Bye.